the big game of the week. We had the big test for Bryce Underwood and the big test for John Mateer. In the night slot, it was college game day in Norman. Oklahoma gets a big win. They win 24-13. Their defense looked great. I do think they were playing a pretty poor offense, a pretty inept offense. I become more and more frustrated with Michigan's offense every time I watch it. It kind of feels like they're trying to beat their head against a brick wall with a lot of their stuff. But I thought Mateer looked good, missed a couple throws, but hit a ton of big throws when they were needed and extended plays with his legs.
I thought he looked great. There were a couple plays that in there where he hit a 20 or 25-yard pass and then took a linebacker's helmet to the chest. Like, he stood in the pocket well. I thought took some really big hits.
I'll maintain he's a gamer.
He is, absolutely. And once again, he has a very good blend of passing ability and running ability. You've got some guys who are just like Jalen Milroe's been accused of being a running back who plays quarterback. I think Mateer can do both and do both at an excellent level. His run game, I think he recorded 2 rushing touchdowns. I had his stats pulled up earlier. I mean, he was very good on the ground. So he was a lot of fun to watch the highlights. But that Michigan offense, you are very right. It's one of those things where we were high on the Oklahoma defense just because of how good they were last year and kind of expecting them under Brent Venables to be good again. And so it's kind of a question of, was the Michigan offense's issues, is it a blend of offensive ineptitude, as you said, defensive like matchup, or like some of both?
It's definitely a mix of both. I almost didn't say it when I did because I don't want to try and take away from how impressive Oklahoma was. But even like looking at Michigan's rushing stats, a lot of it skewed by the 75-yard touchdown pop by Justice Haynes. Besides that, Michigan was really stymied in the run game. Oklahoma was constantly getting into the backfield, moving the line of scrimmage into the backfield. It was really tough sledding. And then from there, they just don't have the pieces realistically to just go pass happy.
Yeah,
it's not going to work. So I guess it's like while they were beating their head against a brick wall, it's like I don't know if they really had another option. But it's been, I guess, a couple years of this now where they've had the chance to get guys into the program to fix that, and they still haven't. So, like, it's still on them, in my opinion.
I think you said it earlier to me off air when we were prepping, is that the Michigan offense looked predictable, and I would agree because watching the highlights, the number of times Oklahoma DBs were in the backfield on screens or linebackers were in the backfield on, like, running backs trying to bounce it outside was insane. It was like they knew what was coming. And so I wonder if there's some predictability to that offense, is what I think was the word you used earlier, because the Oklahoma defense did look very good. They were constantly getting to guys behind the line of scrimmage, and that's just not something you want to see from an offense. Also, Bryce Underwood, I couldn't find his stats for just this week, but his season stats, and it's two whole games. It's completion percentage at certain depths. So he's 2 for 7 on 20-plus yard passes, 5 for 12, 10 to 20, and then 15 for 22, passes 0 to 10, and then 8 for 10 behind the line of scrimmage. I feel like he was taking so many passes, and I may try and go back and find just yesterday's stats. I feel like the majority of his passes were screens, were check downs. I feel like he was not having a lot of success in traditional passing concepts.
It's a personnel thing.
Yeah.
100% a personnel thing for them. That is their biggest problem. Their 2 best weapons are Justice Haynes and then Klein, their tight end, Marlon Klein, who got hurt during warm-ups. He had a huge ankle spat on. It looked like disgusting. It almost looked like a cast.
Yeah.
That was how big that thing looked. And they talk about that guy like he's Colson Loveland 2.0. He is still their second leading receiver through 2 weeks, and he didn't play a single snap against Oklahoma. They do not have the weapons to throw it really downfield whatsoever. And so I'm right there with Jack. It's the knowing that. There's no way they don't know that, I'd hope. And yet they still are kind of anemic on offense. They're very reliant on Justice Haynes, big explosive plays. You signed a 5-star recruit who is unbelievably explosive, and people are telling him, or people are telling you that he's one of the best talents in college football, and he plays like the guy that a lot of people are watching right now on Sunday Night Football, Lamar, and they have not used it like that at all. the first possession for John Mateer, you bring in number one transfer quarterback who's a potential Heisman dark horse coming to the season, who can do all the things that Bryce Underwood can. Bryce Underwood can do all the things John Mateer was doing last night. Mateer made his presence felt immediately in that game. He throws a beautiful post to the tight end Connect, who makes a great one-handed grab on a 3rd and 9. They were facing 3 and out to start the game at home when they had the ball first. And then John Mateer uses his cadence. They draw a free play. They get 22 yards off that. They use Mateer on 4 design quarterback runs, including one on a 4th and 1 on that first possession. And then they use a little pop pass to Deion Burks for a touchdown. That's how you use your playmakers. Michigan is not doing that whatsoever. And their only explosive play was just a simple handoff to Justice Haynes. I thought it was a very creative handoff, and I thought it was actually really cool. They brought in 2 extra offensive linemen, so they had 7 offensive linemen on the field, and they ran a simple quarterback power, and he cut back and ran deep for a touchdown. But Michigan was not scheming well with the personnel that they have. And I agree with Jack there. That is what is frustrating for me right now, is just the lack of using what Bryce is. Because I thought Bryce played really well. I thought he was really poised. He was not really scared under the bright lights. Yeah, he missed a throw here and there, but he made some great throws throughout the game. He gave his receiver, chances to make plays.
Yep.
There's a beautiful one where he kind of shows immediately oh, he's a little bit more mature than the rest of these freshman quarterback, where he's scrambling out to the right, and he keeps his eyes downfield. Both the corners crash on him. He throws it right over the top to the receiver. Big play for 25 yards. He's doing stuff like that as a true freshman in his first road start, and yet they're still just not using him right. And I hate that. I hope that changes. I don't know the pulse of the Michigan fans. I'd be interested to hear what Cromie would have to think about it. But also, I would be interested to hear what all the other Michigan fans have to feel about it or hear about it, or how they feel about it, I should say. Because while Brett Venables in Oklahoma had a great scheme and they were explosive and got to the backfield all night, I don't think Michigan had no chance in that game. Yeah, it did not feel that way.
No, I agree. I think it's a couple things on that. I feel like they have to be getting pretty restless with the coaching staff at this point. It reminds me, their offense reminds me a bit of a Jimbo Fisher offense at A&M in that I could see the vision, but it was so complicated and so hard to execute. And that's what Jimbo Fisher told us all the time is it's there, we just got to execute it. And it's but you're making it so difficult, it's almost impossible to execute it drive after drive, right? And so, sure, I can see what y'all maybe are trying to do with this really run-heavy offense, a ton of screens, all that. But it's just not – I think it's too complex to work. It's too difficult to pull off unless you just have the perfect storm, ideal personnel, the best offensive line you've ever seen, unreal running backs, stuff like that. So I would just love them to change some things up, make it a little more simple on Bryce Underwood. I agree getting his legs involved because if everything's really tight and you're struggling, it's another look. It's another thing for the defense to think about.
He hasn't had a single design quarterback run, and he hasn't had a single quarterback scramble. All of his carries are sacks right now.
This game is, I think it kind of proves what I was saying in our preview of Michigan in that, this is a 2-year thing for Bryce Underwood because I don't think all the pieces are there around him yet. I still think they could use the pieces they have better, but this is they're in with Bryce Underwood for the long haul for his sophomore and junior year, and hopefully next year they can get more pieces around him.
Yeah,
because it's just not all there yet. I want to swap to Oklahoma though because we've not talked about them a ton. Yeah, you got it.
One more.
They could have won that game outright too because they had 4 chances where they get down there. And really even 5. They were forced to kick field goals on 3 of them, miss one of them early, and then they had the 2 field goals in the second half in the third quarter. But then there was another opportunity where they're at the 38-yard line, and their kicker who made a 55-yarder last week doesn't come out to kick a 55-yarder, and they go out and punt it, and it's for touchback. There were just some questionable decisions, I thought, for Sharon Moore and how they kind of managed it. But that all goes to say that they've got some things that they need to address, and I don't know if I'm confident that they're going to address them.
Yeah, I think it's at this point at least fair to question Sharon more. Not necessarily there's no point in like calling for his job yet, but like some questions are. It's reasonable to start asking some questions.
Yeah, I would love to see them start utilizing Underwood more to create explosive opportunities. They had 5 explosive plays to Oklahoma's 11, and one of them was the Justice Haynes 75-yard touchdown, which I'm not going to say feels like a fluke, but like that was the only run of 10 or more yards. So just creating more stuff using Underwood.
For Oklahoma, a couple key players that stood out to me besides I thought they moved the ball pretty well in this game. They got about 400 yards of offense against a Michigan team that prides himself on a good defense. Deion Burks, I see now why everyone talked about him being hurt last year was a huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
He's explosive. He's a star. Didn't start him in fantasy last night. I'm kicking myself for it because I was like, oh, they're playing the Michigan defense, right? But he's just that kind of guy. I mean, taking a little pop pass to the house like shows it right there on the first drive of the game. That's why you want
evading like 5 dudes on the way to there.
We were watching it, and Sanders was like, I can't believe Mateer gets a touchdown pass for that because that was all the receiver. That was all Deion Burks. But he's a true, like, one receiver. He's someone that can make plays, can make guys miss, can win on routes. Great hands. I was very impressed with him. And then Kendall Daniels on defense is a guy that – he had that huge play where he blew up the running back out in the flat, and it's just like – I don't know. That's sick right there. It gets the blood boiling a little bit.
Oh,
He just comes and just levels them. I thought he played good aside from that, but that one play was like, oh, he's here.
And it's a big play too because it's Justice Haynes. It's their only offensive threat, and the play call, like he reads it perfectly on the little screen. I thought they were excellent in that. Like Sanders talked about, like a lot of Bryce's throws are short passes, short screens. They were super disciplined in that. Especially the defensive ends throughout the night, like
classic Brent Venables.
It's so easy for a defensive end to sit there and immediately feel like, oh, I should rush the passer as soon as you see the quarterback take the ball and not hand it off. But to be able to read the running back sneaking out to the flat and to find him and make sure there's an extra guy over there, because that's all screens are in football. It's a numbers game. That is how you're supposed to do it. You're trying to get 3 blockers on 3 defenders, so you got one guy just running through blocks.
Yeah.
And whenever you can, see it coming, a defensive end or a safety can creep over there, or a linebacker can make a sprint all the way from the other hash, you can shut that down, and that shuts down a really quick part of it's essentially an extension of the running game. And Oklahoma was excellent on that all night, and they really, shut down Michigan's version of that screen game, and that was really impressive to see. Mateer, I just thought he looked really good. Again, I'll say I said it in my top 25. I think the only thing for him right now is I just need to see him use all of his moves. Like it feels like right now if he was a WWE wrestler, he's only using like his finisher. Like I want to see, okay, can you hit the one where you bounce off the ropes twice and hit him with a clothesline? Can you do, a little frog splash? Stuff like that. Like the little things right now, I think are kind of not helping him. And like I said earlier in the top 25, there were multiple balls that he threw that were tipped, that could have been picked, that should have been picked. If the ball just bounces a little bit differently, like Michigan could completely change that entire game. And I think that's the biggest thing for Mateer going forward, because if he doesn't change that, Oklahoma is going to lose games, whether it's 1, whether it's 4, because Mateer is turning the ball over, because he's putting the ball in harm's way. There are multiple situations where I think he is just using the wrong kind of throw, and that was evident throughout the night, allowing corners to get back in on the play.
Sure.
And Michigan's an elite defense, sure, but for Mateer, like, if you're in Heisman conversation, you're in NFL conversation, and so the bar and the standard is just immediately raised on what you need to be doing, because at the next level, as we saw today on NFL on this Sunday, like even like Tua, as great as he is, looked awful today, and that can happen on Sunday. And if Mateer wants to get that far, he's got to improve there.
Yeah, I love watching him play, and I also just hate it because it honestly is so gross to me the way he throws the football.
Yes.
The little sidearm, I think that's why I get so many passes tipped. And it's a good, it's not bad to have a sidearm in your repertoire, but you need to be able to change your arm angle somehow. So I completely agree. There's not a ton of variance in how he throws the football. He throws it very well, the way he does throw it, but it's not every situation is going to call for that, I guess.
Yeah.
So it just kind of is I kind of find myself saying "ew" a little bit when he releases the ball.
The reason he does it is because he played shortstop. He played a ton of baseball and played shortstop. He was a promising pitcher, but he didn't have enough velo to pitch full time. So now he just became the quarterback, and so the sidearm is very natural for him. But even like Mahomes, who throws a ton of sidearm, or Josh Allen, who throws a ton of sidearm, gotta find a way to, move the ball, throw it over the top. Every once in a while, throw it with a little touch. And so I just think that's something Mateer's got to improve on. But it's so more fun watching this Oklahoma offense than the Jackson Arnold offense.
I completely agree.
Weapons 100%. Being there helps a ton, but still, I think the offense coming over from Washington State, I forgot the offensive coordinator's name, but to be 29 years old, to be coaching high school football 5 years ago, I think that's a hell of a story to be able to run what is going to be one of the best offenses in the country.
I agree with that. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, that was in my notes, is it's kind of sad to, not to say that Oklahoma's offense last year doing great, but we would know a lot more. Because Jack said earlier, Deion Burks, now I didn't get why everyone was talking about how devastating it was not having him. But now he's on the field, and I'm like, oh, so this guy is actually an incredible playmaker. He's not just being hyped up. He's proven that him being missing was a big deal. So it is really sad to think we would know a lot more about Jackson Arnold had we seen him with the weapons that John Mateer has at his disposal now.
Yeah, and the offense, just they weren't, for me, a big thing going into the game was consistency. They were not really consistent last week against Illinois State, and they just weren't necessarily consistent this week, and I would not expect them to be because we're playing a Michigan defense as Derrick Henry runs in for a touchdown.
I mean, that was insane. He just put a guy in the dirt.
But they were good when it mattered most, and that was the first drive of the game, and then also in the 2-minute drill at the end of the first half, they get a nice touchdown drive in the third, and then they're able to cap off with 3 points in the fourth. But specifically the first drive of the game and the 2-minute drill to end the first half, I thought were just really special. And those are the kind of scoring drives that really good teams have. And I think that's just a promising sign to look forward to for Sooners fans going forward, that this is week 2, and we're still able to operate when it matters the most, which is starting the game off well and ending halves well. I just think that's a promising sign going forward.
Agreed. I'll end it with this. Just as someone that was a little lower on Oklahoma going into the season, I didn't think they would be bad, but I just thought there were so many questions. This was a big step forward, and I've walked away from this weekend with a much higher opinion of Oklahoma because of what I saw, because I think the O-line showed that they can hold up for the most part, because of how good the defense looked, because of what I saw from Mateer. So a very, very positive weekend overall from Oklahoma. I came away feeling a lot better about Oklahoma than just worse about Michigan, if that makes sense. But we can move on now.